We did not see an engineer type out of the hallway.
Now what does that look like?
Standing there looking nameless. Confused.
The audio work?
Hoping the meeting was canceled.
Can you hear me?
I don't think this.
There's a little switch on the top of it. You guys will make sure y'all talking into the mic and not laying back.
Dave,
Thank
That's
you.
the only person we don't have to worry about doing this. You're pretty much gotta be able-
Your voice carries.
Sandy's got that booming voice.
Does it not work?
Live. Dave, can you hear on the Zoom?
Ergonomically designed,
No, I didn't.
OSHA approved,
I'll fall backwards.
Is that your internet?
right?
Mike, you want to do it
What
over
did you say,
phone?
Scott?
I didn't say, the prior chairs, they were dangerous. They were a health hazard for sure. I bet the city insurance premiums just went down.
They're nice. I don't know what the old chairs are
Yeah.
like.
Absolutely. Did you get a break on the
The
premiums for
lumbar is
insurance?
adjustable. I do like that.
Okay, I can hear you.
Where is
Thank
it?
you.
Oh, right here. Yeah.
Goes up and down.
All right, David, can you hear us?
I know, right? I need two for that.
All right.
There he is. Oh, hey, Dave.
It's like you're here, Dave.
Uh-oh. Prop him up.
Amy, we're live, right? All right.
Okay.
All right, I will call the January 19th Planning Commission meeting to order and acknowledge that the press, the public and press have been duly notified in accordance with the Freedom of Information Act. Welcome our newest member, Sue. David, we have a new member. I think you may be the only one that haven't met in person. Welcome.
you.
Happy to have you. First item on the agenda is the nomination and election of chairman, chair. We have nominations for chair.
I would like to oh, go ahead, Sandy.
I would nominate Ron Denton if you'll accept.
Second that.
Sounds like you'll accept.
Like I've chosen.
Got one?
The person I was gonna nominate is probably not
Okay, we,
gonna be here.
any other nominations? Without any, we will close nominations and call for a vote. All those in favor of electing Ron chair signify by saying aye. Vote was unanimous. So Ron, next item of business is vice chair.
Vice chairman, do we have any nominations for vice chairman?
You nominate Scott?
I would second that. Scott doesn't mind.
No, I'll do it, sure.
You want to be president? I mean, chairman?
No. Let's keep it the way it is, Ron. I like it just the way it is.
We have any other nominations for vice chairman? No other nominations. We'll go to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous again. The next order of business would be the approval of the minutes of our last meeting. I was not here for that, so I don't feel comfortable making a motion, but do we have any other? Motion to approve. We have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any comments? Seeing no comments, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Again, unanimous. So our new order of business is to have Stan Tech come and speak.
Yeah, so I do know that there was it was supposed to be Stuart. It was not going to be Stuart. It was going to be Rick, his father, who actually did, I think, the majority of the work on the initial study. So But I'm not seeing him, so I would say that we delay that in case there's traffic or he's in another building somewhere. And we could come back to that part of the agenda if and when he shows up.
That makes sense. There's no objection. We can just move on to old business. Short-term rental analysis, and I don't know where we are on that, other than whatever.
Yeah. I do know that the kind of number crunching members of the commission have been hard at work. I've seen emails going back and forth. And I would just ask that you all kind of give a synopsis of where you are with that and what a kind of a status update on the data and the tool in general.
Okay, just to recap, I think at the last meeting, we had agreed upon a template. It was like a one pager where we were going to summarize using the tool with the county data, the license data and everything else, the units and the bedrooms by short-term rental, primary residence, and second home. And we were going to do that by the areas that Steve had first cut. We were going to look at the areas. I think there were 9 areas that were mapped out, and these could be subject to change. It was a first cut. The second view was by residential and commercial, and the third view was by wild dunes and non-wild dunes. And so I think we all agreed that we were going to, if we had that level of detail, at least down to the next level from the aggregate, then we could look at things by like carving out the commercial piece and considering and focusing in on the livability issue for the residential areas. Steve did a lot of work on assigning the streets. He took that to a whole nother level. And David's taken a cut at trying to put together some preliminary information on at least the top or the first 3 areas. So where we are is we think it might be easier just to assign the areas and the data. Not to get into the weeds here, but we're going to take one more cycle with the data, so that's going to be a lot easier to pull for all of us and for anybody else that wants to use it. I think the target for that would be, we should be able to have a first cut on that template by the next planning commission meeting. That would be something I think we can shoot for. And in the meantime, there might be iterations that are prepared. And I think the team and, we may want to have a work session or a review session just to kind of go through it and see, hey, does this make sense or does it not make sense? The other thing I think we probably could use, I think Sue and some others could use a reorientation on the tool. And I can talk to the folks and we can arrange for that at the convenience of the team here. So I guess the punchline is, by next planning commission meeting, we should have something ready to present.
Okay.
That would be the target.
David, are you able to hear that? Anything to add or? Okay. Okay. Any points to discuss there other than just still pulling together data? I don't know if it would be beneficial for Sue to kind of give a little background. And Sue and I met yesterday, and we just talked generally about the fact that this task was handed to you all by the council. Now it's probably been 5 months or so ago. And so commission is working on putting together databases from separate unlinked databases into one tool for the purposes of analyzing the trends, seeing what's going on. And I think the tool is created. It's now just a matter of kind of figuring out what questions to ask of it, what trends to look at. So the group as a whole has been trying to do that, come up with what points would be critical to learn about and to study and to figure out, what's going on with rentals. I think that the direction here most recently has been to look at them in areas to see if they're migrating between areas. We have information on overall numbers, but we haven't really gotten to the point prior to the development of this tool of being able to visualize if it's shifting between areas, if they're moving back, if they're moving, in into Wild Dunes, out of Wild Dunes, back to the island, front to the island. So we're hoping to be able to get that level of detail in the future. Also, kind of parallel to that, there's been a lot of interest in the idea of a cap. And Sue, I'll forward you, I think probably the most beneficial information on that, in that regard, has been the dialogue that I had with Kiowa. And it just kind of highlighted, hey, Rick, highlighted how their cap is working. I would summarize that by saying they feel like their cap has, it basically was not terribly difficult to get enacted. I would say that is because it was set at a number that was higher than they've received, that they've ever met, and they haven't really gotten to the point where they've met that cap. So to this point, it hasn't hit the point where it's kept somebody from getting a license. So they have done it. It's been good, but at the same time, it hasn't actually been tested really on a case. So, but that was a good
Just to
dialogue.
clarify that, they also didn't put the cap across the whole island. It was only in certain zoning areas. So
That's correct.
There are some areas that are not capped, that are zoned, and those licenses don't count in the cap.
That's correct. Yeah, very much kind of by area, the caps. So I'll forward that to you, Sue, so you
Thank
have
you.
that dialogue. Anything else in terms of that we were looking at or thinking about for Sue's benefit in terms of background? I think that's I think she's coming in at a good place to kind of get the information at the same time as the rest of the commission. So if we want to go to the new business portion of the agenda, Rick has joined us, and Rick is the one that was with Stan Tech, and he was really the lead in and I don't know when, it's been several different iterations of looking at parking and looking at traffic on the island, but Rick and Stan Tech have been instrumental in that for probably 10 years, if not more. Not maybe, yeah, maybe not exactly.
It feels that way.
Yeah. And so just to recap where we are for the benefit of Rick and the group, the Planning Commission is in the middle of doing its 5-year review of the comprehensive plan. The group has acknowledged that traffic is probably the #1 priority for the residents as a whole. And they have acknowledged that the existing comprehensive plan element dealing with transportation is slim on detail. And I think the reason for that is it probably was intentional, because they didn't really know what could be done or if the comprehensive plan was the appropriate place to really try to put meat to the bones of how to figure out traffic. So the discussion has been, do we get outside help for writing the transportation element or providing detail for the transportation element in the comprehensive plan? It's kind of one question that we would want to know if groups like yours have had experience with doing that. And then secondly, maybe an alternate would be leave the comprehensive plan transportation element very simple and high level, but include a strategy in there that would be a traffic plan, a parking plan to help the community get a grip around parking and traffic issues that we've been wrestling with. So, Rick, if you don't mind just telling the group kind of the capabilities and your experiences with traffic plans, comprehensive plans, and anything in between that you think might be helpful. And if and when you talk, and they'll probably have more questions for you than you have to tell them, but if you could talk from the microphone just so the recording will pick you up.
Bring my pad here, just to make some notes, just in case. Is that okay?
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
Good afternoon, I apologize, don't tell them I-526. Traffic free when you got it close, so my apologies. Thank you very much, Douglas, for allowing me to come here today. I work for a company called Stantec, and you may have run into another individual here from time to time by the name of Jay. Works for Stantec, my son, but I drew the short straw today, so I'm here. We work together. We do a lot of one of our main book of business is Stantec does a lot of things. You can check us out on the web. But traffic and transportation are the main things we do around these parts of South Carolina. We do a lot of work for municipal governments, counties, the DOT, others, and we feel very comfortable doing this. I've been involved with this, over 35 years, and done a number of comprehensive transportation plans for cities and counties. Did one for Charleston years ago, Somerville, other places. So I kind of know what you're facing right now, and I am familiar with Isle Palms. I guess it could work a lot of different ways. Whatever you prefer, we would love to assist you in that. Whether it's trying to tackle it in this revisit of the comp plan, or whether it's something outside of it, or if it's something just on an hourly basis, help us think through this. And what about this? What about that? And let us support that thinking. So we could, depending, of course, it's all about time and money, but we bill our hours just on, we want to make sure we bring good value to you. But if it's something real small, we worked it so much, we probably wouldn't charge you for it. But if it's something more involved, of course, we're in it to make a dime. So we would just love to just make sure we have a scope that makes sense for all of us to do a good job for you. Does that make sense? Is that a good high level overview? But we'll work it at whatever level you want us to. We're happy to do it. Like I said, been involved with the city for a while, and feel like you got a good background on it. I'll pause right there. If that's okay, Douglas?
Yeah, Rick,
Just entertain questions.
can you, and I get dim on the details as time goes by, but the park, I know Stan Tech did, and the planning commission has seen the parking management study. And that really there was really a study there that you did, and it was followed by a series of recommendations. And I think it was 2014. You did a very, I would say a pretty comprehensive dive into the patterns at that time.
The inventory, the usage of it.
It
for
was
the larger
aerial.
weekends as well as some of the more modern
Yeah.
weekends.
You did a pretty
Kind of,
comprehensive study.
kind of take a snapshot. And then from there, we had like a picture of this is what's going on. What could we do with that to help achieve your goals? And we kind of made some recommendations. We went along that path on a few things. And of course, DOT came back and said, they were kind of tracking with us until I think the headquarters got called, I guess, from some other people on off the island who didn't like what was going on, and they kind of said, we own the streets, and we're going to go back and make some changes. And then they do, they own the streets. And that's where we're at today.
So, and Rick, you all didn't have, between 2014 here and recently, we've never hired you to go back and update any of those trends or
No.
any of that traffic, but you do have a very detailed stamp in time at
But that's
basically 2014, and I guess just thinking out loud, it might be good to have kind of a comparable stamp in time today to just see what the differences are and what the deltas are.
Yeah, and I-
and what you're seeing.
And I think maybe to go to the scope part of this, we know we got a traffic issue, and I think, based on the information you sent us, I think, tell me if I'm off base, the round numbers on the crossings coming over the connector now is approaching 8 million, which is and it's growing. So, do we have any projections on where that's going based on the population growth that's going? We've got a finite number. We're not growing any more streets. We're not growing any more parking spots. And I think, so that doesn't include Breach Inlet, which could be another 1 million or 2 million crossings. So all that on peak weekends, we're seeing more and more. It's not getting any lighter. It's going to get heavier. I think what we were talking about as a team here, what kind of solutions can we should we start looking at evaluating actual solutions? They've been talked about. There are many in use up and down both coasts for situations like this. Can we look at a list of implementing things like reverse laning? Can we look at technology that identifies the parking spots so people know where the spots are instead of running around the island looking for them? Now, those are the kinds of things that we were talking about. Do we start populating our comprehensive plan with solutions that, the council and everybody can evaluate that they can truly alleviate the issue here? Our county park, everybody knows they pay on the way in, clog up everything on a Saturday or Sunday morning. Everybody knows it, but we seem to not do anything, be able to do anything about it. So, can we enlist your help to look at those things, or is that
And I-
something
and I-
that we want to do?
And I,
Or
I pretty much agree with that. I don't think we're talking about widening roads
we're no,
or
not
adding
yet.
bridging. It's more
we don't have-
management. Pretty much of the asphalt we have out there today, how can we better use it, utilize it? Right? That's-
Well, get
Well,
the
that's general thinking.
get the cars on and off more efficiently than what's happening during peak times.
Yeah, and I think the 2014 plan did a great job, as Douglas said, drawing kind of a point in time of that. Things have increased since then. But really, the outcome of 2014 was very much a wonderful parking plan. But it really didn't address some of the other traffic issues that some of the congestion that occurs coming off the bridge, getting into the county park at both of the S curves. And so I think it's, the number of parking spaces is also relatively defined. The question is, how do we manage what's becoming congestion points and pinch points? So are there better things we can do there? So I don't think that really was one of the objectives in 2014, but I think it's becoming more important now.
Yeah, I guess it's a good distinction to make, that you all were tasked specifically with addressing parking.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct.
And I guess
They're
the
different,
issue that's
yeah.
being brought up today, and still parking is a component of that, but
Absolutely.
but-
Yeah.
traffic flow, you've never been tasked with looking at the smooth flow of traffic. Is that, yeah,
That's correct.
so it's a good,
And on that note, what wasn't unlimited options have been grossly reduced with SC DOTs taking back their right of ways and their roads. Oversight on those. So what else do we have out there? Or can we start a dialogue again and try and mitigate some of what has been taken away from us and get some of it back? I don't know.
We can try. Honestly, I don't know how productive that'll be, to be
Understood.
honest, but it doesn't ever, conversation never hurts. But I do believe they made a pretty firm stand when they came in and rearranged parking and
Mhm.
got us to this. So I think, but I do think there may be other things that helps with the flow, perhaps.
What has been your experience in that point? Is, we're obviously not going to take over the streets. They're owned by
Right.
SCDOT,
Right.
and large capital expenditures are going to get very complicated.
Sure.
But have you seen in places where municipalities or local governments have put together a plan, more of a management plan, and then be able to negotiate it with DOT, saying, look, we're not
I
asking you
think
to
DOT will
build
be
it.
receptive to that. I don't think DOT would have a problem if we could come up with a management plan, whatever that may be, whether it's information for people to plan their trips better or to rearrange the times of making these trips or whatever, or reversible lanes or what. I think the DOT would not fight that at all. I think they would be in concert with how do we make it flow better and how we make it safer. That's their goals as well. And or how do we look at other alternate modes people get around, whether it's on island pedestrians or whatever else, or bikes, or whether it's off island with the bus, or I think they'd be receptive to that, but I think we need to come up with ideas that we think make sense and then approach it. Of course, it's their road, so if it's anything on their property, they will have to permit it. So it will eventually have to pass muster with them. If it's something we want to do with signing or signaling or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, regardless of who owns the roads, and I don't necessarily think that, I think what Sandy, you were saying, having the roads come back to the municipality is definitely a possibility. I think there actually is a program that several of the municipalities have already filed for. So that is an option, but I don't know if that's gonna, who owns it may not necessarily delineate what the traffic flow is on.
I don't think they'll ever turn over South Carolina 703 to the Isle of
Yeah, I'm
Palms.
not, I don't know that the town would
We've
really
asked
want
that
that
question before.
pulled back.
I do know that there is some urgency here, and I would back that statement up because the Public Safety Committee meeting this week spent a great deal of time on this very subject as well. They wanted something done yesterday, and why were we kicking the can down the road? So it's a very timely subject. in my
Can we
mind.
get to some of these points of recommendation from you guys without an extensive data collection effort? Or do you feel comfortable, I guess, with the data that we have and what you've seen, what's been prepared in front of us now?
I would not, I think, we're going to talk about this, to make sure you're comfortable, but I would think we've got a good solid data point, I think, right from back at that time. We could do a quick refresh of that. And then from that, come up with, here are some ideas, starter ideas from our perspective. Bounce it off of you folks and say, tell me more about that, or I don't think that's a starter. Let's go to something else. And just have kind of like a workshop meeting perhaps to say, what do we think and what do we think makes sense? And if you implement A, B, C, D, what kind of benefits you may get out of it? And even if you say, well, I've seen this happen in XYZ coastal towns up or down the coast, look at it, investigate it, we'll go do that. So I think if we could do a collaborative effort, I think a workshop or two
Yep,
with a little bit of study beforehand
yep.
and maybe a little bit of information we provide to you to begin the conversation.
Doesn't the DOT already have these solutions? I mean, I feel like we're trying to recreate, maybe I'm off base here, but it seems like we're taking a step back, trying to validate options that are already available and out there that we might want to just have I mean, why can't we just kind of get into that conversation in the workshop without, we know what the issue is. We see it every weekend. Yeah.
That's what I said. I don't think it'll be a great effort to quickly refresh. I like to go back and look at the flows across the Breach Inlet Bridge and also the Isle of Palms Connector Bridge, and look at times a day, perhaps for the last peak season, to understand them compared to back at the previous time. To really make sure I just have a good understanding what's transpired.
Scott, just to follow up on that, somewhat sarcastically. If you look at some of this, the pinch point issues, if you look at the county park, look at the traffic to the front beach, I would question whether DOT has looked at it in enough detail to say, here's a plan and we're sitting on it. I think we.
No, I don't, I
think we have to
agree with
push-
you.
I think we have to push that and say, here's a plan we would like to see, work with you to implement.
But I'm just saying DOT is familiar with solutions to these kinds of problems, not necessarily that that DOT is going to solve them for us. They're different.
And it'll have to be a joint effort eventually. But I would hate to, well, I would say, I would want to make sure we propose potential solutions that match with your sense of place, communities that you want to see, and then bring it to them to kind of work the details out.
Doug, a quick question, following up on what Sandy said. I mean, how this mechanism moves forward. I mean, we're looking at the comprehensive plan, which has been, in my opinion, at a very high level, or maybe
Yeah.
too high level, to get
Yeah.
into detail. And Sandy just mentioned that the public service committee just looked at it. Do we need to get all the people together and say, look, let's, time is important, as Sandy said. Let's not spend time rewriting the comprehensive plan, turning it over to the city council and giving it to the public service. Shouldn't we get the groups together and say, let's have a workshop and all of us look at this at one time?
Yeah, I think that would be smart. I think, yes, to answer your question, I think it would be smart to have everybody on the same page, the same path going in the same
Cut to the
direction
chase,
in terms of getting a solution.
I'm available tomorrow.
And their next meeting in February to workshop just this. Their focus in that conversation was the connector specifically. So, but I want to say they're attempting to schedule a workshop.
Transportation.
Yeah, a workshop based on that sometime between now and February 3rd. And so if that's a conversation you want to get in on, that would be something.
Isn't
else
that
that's
like
ready.
12 days from now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I'm-
tomorrow.
Yeah.
Goes to ski trip.
So let me talk with Desiree about that aspect of it, the fact that I did not realize, was not at their meeting, so I didn't realize that they're kind of fast forward a go on it. So let me circle up with them. And yeah, I think it would make sense to have kind of a collaborative sit down with them.
Nicole, was their meeting, and I don't know, Cindy, you said you saw it, was it more concentrated on connector?
Their
Instead of traffic
specific-
solutions.
Yeah, it was specifically, their biggest concern was the connector, the way it was striped, the way it was handled, that sort of thing.
Loss of the emergency lane.
Sure.
Correct.
Yes, and as well as there was conversations on the peripheries about traffic. It's,
Yes,
it
sir.
comes down to that. Yeah, traffic and safety.
Yes, and the engineering, working with Mount Pleasant traffic people and that sort of thing in dealing with rapid range. Yes, so overall,
Where they also have issues in Mount Pleasant with their traffic and our traffic. Surprised.
Yeah.
I didn't think they noticed.
Rick, do you have any experience or knowledge of reversing lanes in South Carolina with the on a DOT road? Is there anywhere where that is?
I-26 comes to mind.
Out of South Carolina.
Well, or during hurricane.
And evacuation.
Oh, yeah.
But you're thinking about morning peak, we got a 3-lane road and 2 lanes go one direction and after 2 lanes go back the other direction.
I mean, I know it happens all the time in private.
I've designed it
Stadium.
in Georgia and other places, but I'm trying to think right now, I've not done anything in South Carolina, but I'm trying to think where one may be in South Carolina. And right now,
Do they do it for any of the events in South Carolina, like
they do.
the games?
They do.
So it's done, it's just not.
It's done, it's done.
I mean,
It's
that,
done
our-
more makeshift with the cones, the patrolmen get out there and they put the cones out there at the fairgrounds or
Hmm.
like a Clemson football game and those kinds of events. But not, I think what we're talking about here is more on a, where you have your overhead signs perhaps, and you have green arrows at this lane, which can go to a red X. And so you can do it more on a regular,
more automated.
Yeah.
more automated thing without the labor intensive maneuver.
They had it on what was once the new Cooper River Bridge,
Correct, I remember that.
uh, back in antiquity.
That was reversible?
Yeah, you're pretty young, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yes, sir, it was.
Not the old one, but the
The
solid.
second
Not
one
the
was
gray, the solid.
It'd be 2 ways.
Yeah, it happened for a while, and then it was
And then I
silly.
think they quit operating, they just said, we're gonna keep it fixed this way. I think so. But is there anything else in Greenville or, I'm trying to think,
does Hilton Head have any of that?
I don't know.
The Hilton Head Express, that flyover thing?
Yeah, that's,
But isn't Hilton Head also the one with don't they have a major rotary down there going in and out,
Yeah, they've got a few.
which actually helps the flow? They've got an alternate solution there on some of that.
Does anybody know if that was part of the design considerations? That any of the impetus for the width of the Isle of Palms connector? I mean, was it strictly a emergency vehicle lane at all times?
When it was originally conceived.
Yeah,
I
whenever,
do not know.
I mean, it's 3 lanes. So bottom line is we have an opportunity here to look at this in this way. And why do we have that opportunity? Because it was built that way. It'd be interesting to go back and look at the design report from, when was it built?
Right after Hugo.
89,
Designed
90.
and, yeah, 89-ish.
I mean, I doubt it was projected to be a 4-lane bicycle
Yeah,
path.
yeah.
That's the point I'm getting at.
if I didn't throw them out, I think I have those boards in my attic, Marty.
The presentation boards. So anything else for Rick? I think that's very useful to, I personally like the idea of a focused workshop on recommendations, developing recommendations. And I can get with Rick on what he would expect that would cost for us to do. But I think that would be a useful,
It may end up being 2 workshops. I'm just thinking out loud, if we do a little research up front to look at it and say, here's where we were then, here's where we're at now. Here are some ideas that and I'll talk to you, Douglas, about what you're hearing from planning commission,
Yeah.
council, whatever, that are hardcore issues that need to be resolved. Make
Yeah.
sure we're tracking the right way. And then we kind of throw out maybe some starter ideas. How about this? How about that? How about, and the other thing, the intersection safety, I hadn't heard anything about that, but I don't know if that's an issue or not in terms of pedestrians crossing, but those kinds of things, bicycles. I think it's mainly congestion and pinch points, right?
yes.
Well,
I would,
do you also work with, or have any expertise in, call them parking apps, parking applications?
Yes.
Because we have a lot, I think one of the things that a lot of people talk about is there's a lot of traffic rolling through the neighborhoods searching for that vacant spot. When if we had some technology or application, they could identify where those spots are and not be driving around. Or find out there's no vacancy.
Sure.
You have experience?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
So in order to do a workshop, I'll summarize real quick. We would want an update of the 2018 study, and I don't know what that might involve.
I don't know if you need that, really.
Mostly I'm thinking in terms of the traffic flow, which
Yeah.
we have access,
Right.
everybody has easy
Not the
access to
detail
those
of all
numbers.
the parking. I don't
Right.
think,
No.
but you tell me whatever you want. We want to be responsive to it. But I'm just thinking about, cost benefit of what the
So-
scope may be the most productive for this body.
So yes, I think that you're correct, that we really aren't looking and focused on the parking because that's pretty much done. What we want to do is get those parked vehicles and the incoming flow, to Scott's point, oriented as quickly as possible so that the neighbors are not, the residents are not held hostage with trying to ingress and egress the
Circulating around,
community.
trying to hunt a spot.
And to draw an analogy, we spent a lot of time with the stormwater management plan and the way to solve flooding on Palm Boulevard was to clear the outflows on Waterway Boulevard side. Similarly, the way to control traffic on Palm Boulevard is to fix the problem on the connector. If that's flowing better, then everything else might flow a little better as well, especially outbound. So in the evenings on a Saturday, you're not backed up to 26th Avenue trying to get onto the connector if we can resolve the connector. So they're kind of analogous, and then we could solve, if it's a rush, then we start solving some of the other aspects as well, or they'll become more evident or resolve themselves.
well, Rick, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
For talking with us.
I think that's a little too quick for us to get back.
Well, and the more I hear about that, that sounds very focused on the striping.
I wouldn't
the
mind sitting
connector.
in and just hearing the discussion to make sure I help understand.
But I think
But I
this
would like to
group's,
listen, not present.
I think this group's focus will be higher level than that. It'll be,
We need to go beyond the
So is that a
research.
Island
different, is it a
wide.
different workshop then?
yes,
Okay.
yeah.
Maybe
I
the
think
first
so.
workshop is to do the scoping like you are.
So Rick, I'll be back in touch with, we'll talk about our next steps and I'll be back in touch. Thank you so much.
Thank you
Appreciate
for-
you
for the
coming in.
data that we do have.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anything else? Is it okay if I excuse myself?
Yeah,
Or is there-
thank you so much.
Thanks, Rick.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank you.
I'll
Good to
make
see
up
you.
By coming late by leaving early.
Yeah. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rick. Have a good day.
I'll wait to hear back. from you, Douglas.
Yep, I'll be back in touch. I will. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick.
Thank you, sir.
So if we had all the vehicles' VIN numbers, couldn't we lock them out until we gave them permission to leave? Isn't that how they do it on CSI or something like that?
Disable all the cars.
So
I
Douglas,
vote yes.
do you think there's any benefit for the commission to have, we can't necessarily all just show up at the public safety commission
Right.
meeting, but
Let me talk to Desiree about the focus of that meeting. And the more I hear about it, sounds like it is specifically the striping on the connector, which certainly is important, and I'm sure you all would want to know about what steps are being taken on that, but I think it's different from what you all are facing. I think you all are comprehensive plan level, high level, more than just the connector. I mean, and
Right.
that, whatever happens there would certainly be important to the overall island flow, but
right.
let me talk to her. I'll be back in touch, but I would expect you would just, I can update you or you can tune in. I don't think there'd be a need to
Sure.
to
Yeah, I
attend
don't know
that.
that we'd be able to, the arguments are already there. So, I don't know that we'd add.
And that's a
to it.
very
Right.
pointed, that's a very
Yes.
specific
Right.
task that
Yeah.
they're focusing on.
I don't think anybody on the island's ever liked it.
So how did you all feel about kind of, I think I would say Marty's idea, I don't know if it kind of bubbled out, but of having having a workshop, specific recommendations, bouncing things off of them. They provide data. You two can, the two groups can ask questions, come up with a series of recommendations. Then this group flesh them out into, components that could be put into the comprehensive plan. That sounds to me like probably a low cost, high benefit exercise that
Absolutely.
better to me than
Right.
kind of hiring it all out, probably more productive than having us just kind of rehash what's been done in the past. Kind of a fine mix between the two.
No, I think it's the prudent thing to do to get them involved. It's going to give us more confidence in how we structure our transportation element in the comprehensive plan. And whatever comes of it, whatever actually gets done to solve our traffic issues, we were going to want this plan to be in sync with
Yeah.
what actually happened. So I think engaging them now was the right move. And I think this is the quickest path forward to get to that point.
And I think having a consultant like that.
Unless they disagree with us.
Well,
We'll
yeah.
find
Assuming
another
they
one.
will.
We'll find another.
But I would think
probably seen it
going
all.
to a conversation with SEDOT with consultants on board is probably a stronger conversation than going it alone.
Because that's ultimately where it has to end up. I mean, we ultimately have to come up with a plan, but it's going to be on their assets, on their roads, with their facilities. So there has to be a syncing and a credibility from both sides.
Well, it sounds like they're used to partnering with the DOT too. So
That helps.
just looks better all around.
Any, so the city always has the procurement code at the forefront of our concerns. Depending on the cost, I don't think it's going to be terribly expensive, but typically we would get a couple of proposals unless we know that somebody is basically a sole source provider. To me, Stantec has all of the old information. They have, and I think the spin up for any other company to be able to do what we're asking them to do would be more expensive than just asking them to
Given
attend.
continuity in the time
Sure.
frame, they're probably the logical.
Yeah,
Yeah,
any
logical choice,
reservations
yeah.
about only getting a price from them? from this
No.
one?
No, absolutely not.
So I will, Sandy?
Just real quick, I'm hearing two goals here. One is to help us facilitate putting together some language for the traffic part of the comprehensive plan. And then number two is ultimately working towards some sort of a possible solution for our traffic congestion. So it really is a kind of a two phases here. Okay.
I would agree with that.
I think so.
Yeah, I think this is a very quick and high level exercise. I am guessing that exercise would lead to a strategy and a goal of doing a more elaborate traffic study and traffic plan to work with DOT. That level project, I would think we would want to have multiple firms propose and see how that comes back. It's kind of my frame of thought. Pretty good?
Yes, I'm fine.
If all works well, would the group be agreeable? If we can get it done, and would the group be agreeable to doing that at your regular February meeting? Should we, at a point where we would want to do that? We are supposed to, we have kind of tentatively on the February agenda, our annual legal briefing by the city attorney. Typically does take a big chunk of the meeting, probably 45 minutes. Maybe too much for one meeting.
Can we accelerate that? Because most of us have had that. Is there a shorter version? of
Shorter
that?
version? You want the 15-minute?
That would work.
Orientation?
That would work for me.
We're-
As long as
we're-
it covers
we're
all,
talking about
as long as it
lawyers.
covers all the points. I don't want to. I think Sue's probably up to speed on a lot of that stuff.
I mean, if that's unavoidable and it is what it is, then I would rather do it separate, to be honest with you, but that's gonna be agonizing.
Do we
What's that, the
want,
legal thing?
do we want,
Both of those
to-
are the same.
there's really no time frame of when we do the legal briefing. We typically do it towards the beginning of the year. There's no urgency to do that
Maybe kick that one down the
wanna-
road.
yeah.
a
you wanna
meeting or
put
two?
that one,
That's a good idea. I think,
in April.
Marty, that's a good idea.
Well, is this something that, so again, the powwow with Rick, this is something we're gonna have other stakeholders, we're gonna have the public safety committee and others involved?
I do not think so.
Oh,
So
okay.
on the public safety issue, I'm going to confirm this with Desiree because I wasn't at the meeting.
Sure.
But I think that their discussion was very focused on the painting of the connector and a different focus than what this group would need.
Oh,
to
yeah,
consider.
yeah, definitely. I just didn't know if they still wanted to be a part of the larger.
I can ask. I don't, I
Because
wouldn't-
if that's the case, then it's probably better to just do a separate meeting, right?
yeah, I do not anticipate they would want to. I think they're waiting for you all to do all the hard work,
Where's one?
provide them with the recommendations. So I'm hearing we will delay the legal briefing until March. And we will have potentially a transportation work session next month, February.
So should we talk about what do we need to do to prepare for that? What do we want to bring to that meeting ahead of time at some point? Or in other words, when we go to that workshop, what are we going to do? Are we supposed to bring our ideas? Are we supposed to bring input from what we're hearing in the community? I mean, I don't know, Sandy and Marty, Sue, what should we bring to that meeting?
So I think that we're gonna have two sessions. And the first session, they will be providing information to you all, kind of, we do other projects this way where you get kind of a data dump. We have high-level discussions about ideas. And then the second meeting is where things get a little bit more refined and we've come down to kind of question, answers, yay, nay, at that meeting. And I would expect for that meeting to have basically a draft of the comprehensive plan, transportation element for you all to work
Can
through.
we ask them to come to the first meeting with what they've seen as
Yes.
far as solutions for
Yes.
similar
Yeah,
situations?
so I think the first meeting is really going to be on them to provide information to you all. And that'll be part of scheduling. We'll have to see if our schedule gives them enough time to get that together.
I mean, are they aware of the issues? We didn't get into it with this
You said
in here, but I mean, shouldn't we bring some of our tales of woe at that first meeting? So they've got time to marinate on it, just like we have time
Yes.
to sit on it.
Yeah, I think that we have
So we're gonna get into a little bit of a back and forth exchange.
Yes. At that first meeting, I think that's where all the exchange happens. We go away, we kind of come up with a draft plan, and the second meeting, it's a more refined discussion of,
Gotcha. It's just not gonna be a presentation from
No.
them, though. It's
no,
gonna be
it's gonna be a back and forth.
two-sided. Gotcha.
Yeah, two-sided, with that first meeting kind of being the back and forth. Second meeting being revisions.
So I have February 9th as our next February meeting.
So
tentatively.
that is a court day? What time do you think court would be wrapped? You never know.
I definitely have to see by
4:30s ever go? Could go to 4:30. Is the group agreeable? Does that work?
Ninth, 5.
Marty, remind me, you have kind of a timing conflict with earlier in the day with West Coast work, or is your conflict later in the day with your work?
It's usually earlier. It just got to a point, like over the last couple of years, we got into those 2.5, 3 hour meetings. And
Yeah.
It was just inconvenient to
And
hit
when
them
they're
at
earlier,
3,
correct?
3:30, and then, yeah, exactly.
Okay,
So
so
the 4:30, 5 o'clock time slot.
it's good. Okay. Does that work for everybody?
Shoot for 5 o'clock, you said?
5 o'clock?
I mean, I don't want to keep people here. And if it's a one-off, I can do it early.
It's
It
not
just-
you doing it, it's Amy. So don't feel bad, Marty.
Okay.
All our island cruises.
If you wanted to bounce it a day to maintain 4:30, I'm sure we could arrange that too. But it's,
I'm open to either, honestly. I mean,
can't-
I can do I can do morning stuff too.
I
It's
can't
just,
do the 10th, no,
okay,
or 11th, or the rest of that week's dead for me.
okay.
You can't do the 10th anyways, but you could do that.
That's the week of meetings too.
So it's half and half, actually, because we got 2 on the 3rd. But the 10th has the environmental advisory committee in the afternoon.
Okay.
But, if you wanted to, if that was the case, the 8th would be fine in the afternoon. It's not-
I'm fine with February 9th at 5.
Yeah.
I mean,
All right, sounds like that.
everybody-
Let's shoot for,
so are we talking about just this one occurrence, or are we trying to change the
no, just for,
regular?
are we gonna always have a conflict on second Wednesday?
So I don't have a set schedule because of all of us on your schedule, so it's now the regular schedule, and, I only do it like 2 or 3 months out in advance, but I can also, when we get closer to the court, I can look at the docket, and tell you, we might be out by
Okay,
3, so you don't have to set a time right now. And I can always-
we're gonna stay with 5 on the 8th. And then we'll analyze as
February 9th. or-
February, I'm sorry, 9th. Did I say
Okay.
8th? Sorry,
Oh, I
9th.
missed something.
February 9th
Perfect.
at
Perfect.
5.
If
And
you
we'll,
want to tag, if you want to say we're gonna vote Wednesday, everyone, I can. let you know.
second Wednesday at 4:30 is our,
And then I will just try to make my schedule.
all right, that sounds like a long list of things for our next meeting. All right with that?
Yeah.
I don't have anything else.
And we're gonna do a summary and review of the short-term rental data based on the maps. Gonna look at the maps.
Next time, you're saying?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. So we'll try to, we're gonna.
And we'll try to get all that stuff out ahead of time.
Yeah, and I need some help on the website, as I mentioned earlier. Maybe I just
So we'll get another
call
orientation
Steve and
schedule.
go hang out at his house, drink beer, play on the computer.
That'll work.
We'll figure it out.
All right, anything else from anybody? Motion to adjourn,
No, I want to stay.
anybody?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.